リッチさん、ジョンさん、今日はお越しいただいてありがとうございます。いくつか質問させていただきたいと思います。
Yes, please.
最初の質問ですけど、バリュー株は2022年には大きくグロース株をアウトパフォームしました。それ以前の2021年終盤までは低金利環境だったこともありまして、長らくグロース株に遅れを取ってきました。厳しい環境の中でご自身の投資哲学を貫くためにはどんなことが必要ですか？
Yeah, you're right. I mean, this has been the most challenging time period that we've ever experienced in my career. I've been working since the 1980s, and Don Smith was working, our founder was working since the 1960s. And previously, there had been difficult cycles for value investing, including 1998, 1999 during the bubble stock time period. But this cycle lasted longer than any cycle we've experienced. I think what enabled us to survive during this period was a few things. One was just the belief that our stocks and our approach to investing, which looks at really undervalued stocks that sell at discounts, both to book value and to their underlying asset value, long-term was going to be a winning approach. So we did not feel necessarily that our stocks were overvalued, and we were going to stick to doing what we always do, buy stocks at discounts to book value and discounts to underlying asset value. The growth stocks did very well. There was nothing we really could do about that. We were going to stick to our approach. And I think it was the confidence that we had in our approach, and that confidence has been built up over the last 50, 60 years that Don Smith was investing, and I worked with Don for almost 40 years, that we knew eventually the value would come back and that our stocks would do well. Our firm was positioned to survive during that tough time period. We have a small but very competent group of people that work with us. They all believe in value. It's almost like a religion. So we all had the same feeling that value would come back, and we all wanted to be working with Donald Smith and Company because we are a unique team. But I think having a small staff helps to keep expenses very low. So even if we did lose assets, and we did lose some assets, we lost some accounts who moved to growth investing, we were still an extremely profitable firm. So overall, it was just a confidence level in our stocks. And even though it was a tough time period, if you look at our results now, say over the last 10 years, which encompasses a lot of that difficult time period, our product, our small cap value product, which is what we're talking about now, has vastly outperformed not only the Russell 2000 value, but it's even outperformed the Standard & Poor's 500, which is a very growth-oriented index to beat. So we've survived and really prospered through this difficult time period.
ありがとうございます。今のお話の中にもありましたけど、ユニークなチームということですが、私どもあなたのチームは経験豊富な結束の高いチームだと理解しています。運用の質を維持するためのチームの体制や人員の増強についての考え方をお聞かせいただければと思います。
So yes, we do have a very tightly knit team. We are very careful in the kind of people that we select to be as part of our team. We look for certain things when we hire people. The staff has always been built from people who have gone to very top-notch, to the best graduate schools, and particularly with a focus on the Wharton Business School, which is where I went, and the Columbia Business School, which is where John and some of our other people have gone. Columbia has what's considered the best value investing program. It's where Benjamin Graham used to go, and when Warren Buffett himself was at Columbia. So we found that picking people from those kinds of programs who have an orientation, a bent towards value investing, towards liking cheap stocks, is a very good place to be picking. We like to train those people in our specific type of investing. And so it's a rare person that in these days that will like to do that kind of investing, particularly as we just discussed, because growth has done so well for so long. Many of the people, the students that you interview, you will talk to them and all they can talk about is the next great growth company, and those are not the kind of people we want to interview. So, like me, when Don hired me, 40-something years ago, we look for people who have a way of thinking that's somewhat contrarian, that is very value-oriented, where somebody wants to buy something for 50 cents on the dollar. And they also need to be intellectually curious. All of us we like to read, we like to learn new things, we like to have just discussions. We feel that we're almost like a detective to figure out what a company does, what an industry does. So it's a cerebral approach, something where you're using your brain, but we all like to learn, and we like to learn from each other. And I personally like to hire people who are smarter than I am. John's a brilliant guy, and the people that we've hired since John have also been very bright. So it's something that I thrive on by being able to learn from people like John and the rest of the staff. So we just love being together and constantly learning. So I think it's an advantage that we have, and we've managed to keep our staff intact for many years. John has been working with me for over 20 years. As I said, I had worked with Don Smith for almost 40 years before he passed away 4 years ago. And the other people in the firm have been there for 20 years, 15 years, so we stick together. There's no better place, in my opinion, to work than Donald Smith and Company. So, and I think the staff realize that, and that it's unlikely that we will lose people very often.
And it's a nice size. The perfect size for investment team is someone everyone can fit in the same room and be in the room when decisions are being made. And I think that's something that's very enjoyable, that all the employees enjoy, is that you're not in a silo. You're really a part of the decision-making process on a day-by-day, with portfolios getting constructed and responsibilities being shared, and new sectors will become cheap in the cycle, and then we get to study that together and learn, like Rich said. And I think that's really an enjoyable and unique aspect of working with our firm.
We would often get the question of how can 4 or 5 investment professionals cover the whole universe of stocks? We don't need to cover the whole universe, because we're only looking at that lowest 10%, the lowest decile of stocks that are cheap on a price-to-book basis. So there's industries that, for now at least, we don't need to really focus on. And we won't buy stocks that sell at huge premiums to book value. So, Don Smith always used to say that our staff of 4 or 5 could do the work of 40 people, because we're only looking at 1/10 the number of companies that other firms look at, who feel that they have to cover every single stock.
ありがとうございます。大変興味深く聞かせていただきました。次の質問ですけども、1981年に、リッチさんを採用した創業者のドナルド・スミス氏でございますけども、どのような人物でしたか。あとその同氏のどのようなところが魅力的でしたでしょうか。
There's so many things that I loved about Don. He was, unfortunately, when I had to give his eulogy 4 years ago, I said that he was like a second father to me. He was a mentor. He was one of the brightest people, most brilliant people that I'd ever met. He had the ability to think differently in the contrarian sense. He understood his philosophy of investing better than anybody, and he actually carried that philosophy of liking to buy something inexpensive in the stock market to his personal life. So he was really a very modest man, even though he became extremely wealthy from his investing. He would still buy, make sure to buy the things at a real discounted value, almost to an extreme. So it was funny to watch. But at the same time, he was extremely philanthropic. Most of his money over his career and upon his death went to a foundation, a philanthropic foundation, which he believed in. So I also really respect him for that. And he grew up in really very modest means. He grew up on a farm. He was a hard worker. He was an entrepreneur. He raised pigs. He worked in a funeral home. He worked on an ice cream truck. He had he sold encyclopedias. He did so many things to bring himself up and to work his way out of that really small town farm boy. And he was really a success story.
ありがとうございます。最後の質問になりますけども、日本の投資家の皆さんにメッセージをお願いできればと思います。
Sure. This is really a unique opportunity, both for us. I mean, we've never had the opportunity to work with the Japanese investors, the retail investors. So I can't say how pleased we are to be able to do that. And I'm hoping that by the same token that the Japanese investor understands that we are truly a unique company. There's very few deep value investors left because it's been such a difficult time period for value investing. Most of our competition has either gone out of business or they've changed their stripes. They've become different. And they may call themselves value investors, but they're no longer deep value investors. So I think that if you really do your research, you'll see that there's very few people that are like us, and we think that this could be an opportunity for a very long period of outperformance for value investing. Growth has done so well for so long. I would argue that many growth stocks at this point are overvalued, and our stocks on a relative basis are as cheap relative to the growth stocks or to the S&P 500 as we've ever seen them. So we're very optimistic about the future of Donald Smith & Company and our approach to investing.
Yeah, I would echo what Rich said. I think it's a really great time to get involved with our strategy, and I hope that it resonates with the Japanese investor that our long-term focus and approach in value stocks is unique, and it's something that we hope to have a very successful and long-term relationship and deliver strong investment returns to the investors in Japan who believe in our strategy.
ありがとうございます。Thank you very much for your cooperation.
Yes,
Thank you.
Thank you.